How are you? What is this? We're early. How can this possibly be that the 4 or 5 of us are got our stuff together this morning and we are kicking off the show early?
We have entered an alternate
Accidental.
universe.
Right. So, in
I-
today's show,
It's
we will
all
talk
fun.
about everything that's hobby related, and we'll hit the main topic of when is enough enough? How can you play your stuff if you got to keep buying more? So we'll be looking at that and everything in 3, 2, 1.
Big Nuke 6 Eagle Thrust. Put on Warhammer. Make it loud. This is a Romeo Foxtrot. Shall we dance?
You are listening to the SITREP podcast, your source for everything related to historical wargaming. Whether you are looking for the latest wargaming news, reviews, painting tutorials, or playthroughs, you will hear about it right here. So grab your favorite beverage or brush and let's hit it.
All right. Welcome, one and all, to the show. There's a new face here. Well, not new, but there's a new face.
Happy to be back.
Yeah. Dawn's joining us.
Yay.
She's going to provide a little bit of the nonsense world to the show.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
In class. She's bringing class to
Oh,
the show.
there you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
class.
Thank you for that.
So today's theme sweatshirt is General Patton.
Ish.
Find me a private to slap. Find me a private to slap.
I volunteer Chris as tribute.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
So joining Dawn and I is Marty,
Morning, all.
Chris,
Hey, guys.
and the man himself, Riskinny Jim.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Or
And good morning to
afternoon,
our
as your
audience.
geography may dictate.
And good morning to our audience, one and all, or afternoon or evening, as Jim say, wherever you are in the wonderful world, the blue marble that we live on. Today's show, we're going to talk about when is enough enough. I mean, and we'll get into it, but you probably know what I'm talking about. Uh-oh.
Hey.
Tough Ears is already in the house.
Here's the house.
All right. So, as tradition, we talk about catch up from the last show, what we've been doing in the world of gaming and hobbying. And done.
Okay, so I have a couple of things. Not painting, not shocking to anyone.
What?
I know.
Thank
I
you for
have
joining
gotten
the club.
additional cards for my Disney Lorcana card game, as well as the most recent set for Magic, Murders in Karlov Manor. So I have been sorting through that stuff. But then, kind of in a different vein, we have started kind of tinkering around in the game room here. You see the shelf behind us. So we've been doing some rearranging. So I've ordered some new shelves because getting to the point of the topic we're going to hit later today, we've already reached maximum capacity with the shelves that we have. And it's kind of looking like games threw up all over the place over there now. So I got 2 new shelves that need to be put together. And we're going to kind of reorganize that gaming corner and kind of regain control of how everything looks over there.
Yeah. Good morning, Dennis. Or afternoon, evening. Let's just say good day, shall we?
There you go.
I
There you
say
go.
good day, sir.
Good day,
Um,
Toyosa.
Kansas, it should be 8:12 in the morning, I think, out there.
That's right. He lives in Kansas.
No,
He lives near my son.
I was gonna say you got somebody in
Might be
Kansas.
9:12.
Do.
Yes. So,
Also, or
Yeah.
maybe that's a Bill thing, but I saw some pictures of a painting.
hold
set
on,
up.
man. Don't steal my thunder, man. Don't steal my thunder.
All right. I'll shut up.
All right. Well, now that Marty's leaked it all over the
Bill,
place.
what have you been doing?
You posted it.
I know, right?
Well,
It's
all
not
right.
a secret anymore.
I will share a picture. Sharing a screen. Let's see. Skype. Shared. Boom.
Look
Yeah,
at that.
I did a thing.
That looks like it should be like right out of like a catalog.
Doesn't it?
You know,
So
it's-
I do now have this painting corner. The clear acrylic racks on the wall, that's all the Pro Acryl line. I'm missing 2 sets, but of the signature series, but I have ordered them just to round out the complete collection. And on the work table itself is the wave 1 and wave 2 of Two Thin Coats by Duncan Rhodes.
Very nice.
I got those from Sarissa Precision. They came fast from England. I think I had them within less than a week. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And they come with the rack?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can order them with the rack. So, and they're really nice because each rack shows the colors in front. So you can organize it and keep it all well. And this is just a smaller folding table. And Dawn goes, it's not a big enough space. And I'm like, no, I did it on purpose because this makes me focus on one thing, not overload the table and have no room to work.
I call bullshit.
So I got my wet palette. Shut up, man.
As soon as you start doing it, you're just gonna look like mine. I've got 6 feet of countertop here, and I have 2 inches that are not covered.
Shut up, man. I got my wet palette, got my work surface, I got my water paintbrush cleaner, I got my paint shaker. And if you notice in the lower left corner, you'll see a whole bunch of dudes on sticks. I know it's kind of hard in this little picture, but that's the Waterloo box. I have completely assembled everybody. It'll get primed today if I get a little bit of a dry spell, but it'll be ready to go for painting. So Waterloo is fully assembled.
How much assembly is that?
I don't know. It's several days. I mean, what I did is I took one unit. So like the British infantry, I took all the sprues of British infantry. I clipped them all and just did an assembly line. I did those last night. It took me maybe 2 hours. A couple hours for each, assembly. So I will prime them, zenithal them, and then start painting them up.
Okay. No, the only reason I was asking is I've got the Civil War set, and they're already all together.
Oh yeah, but those are epic scale. These are 28 millimeter scale.
Oh, okay.
So those had to be assembled. So that is that. I also purchased, and I will do a video on it, an airbrush. Nothing fancy. It's one of those portable airbrushes with the little portable compressors. And damn it, the thing don't work good.
Yeah, there's I can't remember the name of the
Like
model.
a compressed can that attaches to the brush.
No,
itself?
it's an actual. It looks like a brick, and it's an actual compressor.
Yeah,
self-contained compressor. It does about 30 psi,
and it's not loud. I was amazed.
Yeah,
and because I saw a review video on it, and surprisingly not shitty.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, this is cheap, and it's not, it doesn't have all the things. It's not going to be any good. I mean, I don't know if I'm painting my my Golden Demon stuff with it, but for the average, painter, looks like it gets the job done.
And I bought the one with the actual air hose connection to it, so I can actually adapt other good airbrushes to it and use those.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Does it come with any kind of water trap? Well, I guess we'll see in the video. Any kind of water trap or?
No, it doesn't have a condensation trap.
Okay.
I mean, you could add one because I have the hoses for it, so I could do a whole setup. It's mostly designed for simple stuff, portable, because it's battery operated. It has a rechargeable battery to it.
Gotcha.
So you could literally take it to like Adepticon and do some painting at a booth, if you didn't have power. And it's mostly like priming and block painting. With the airbrush that came with it. The airbrush that came with it is not a bad airbrush. It's not a harder than Steinbeck by any means, but it's not bad. So yeah. So let me see what else.
Tuffy Years wants to know if it's a GW Flamer spray gun.
No, it's not a flamer. Sorry. Yeah, Dennis bought one too. He says he agrees it's better than expected. I mean, I think I paid $70 for mine because it came with accessories, and for $70, that's the price of a least expensive airbrush.
Just the airbrush body.
Yeah, just the airbrush.
Yeah. Never mind the compressor, which is at least another 100 after that.
Yeah. So
normally.
I'm so far, I'm happy with it. We'll see when I do a video on it and actually use to paint some things, but so far not bad. I guess I need to buy a tank. So I can airbrush a tank or something,
Yeah.
Something big and small. Other than that, I'm just waiting on some paintbrushes to come in. Those Artis Opus sets. Don doesn't know about it yet.
Oh. Oh.
What?
Byron's proud of his brushes.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, they're good brushes. Don't get me wrong, but
yeah.
Mm-hmm. I will
there's
never know.
there's a reason why I have the Army Painter dry brush set and not Artis Opus.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, what would Donna do to you?
Yeah, you paid what for brushes?
I don't care if it comes in a stupid little box.
You shouldn't have told
And
me.
then some idiot sent me a thing for the Alamo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm looking at that this weekend. But we'll see.
What's everybody else been up to?
Well, let's go to John. Jim. Did I say John? I said
Dollar store
did.
brushes for the win, right, Tuffy?
Jim, hit us.
Well, now that apparently people don't know my name,
I'm sorry. I work with 4 Johns. I'm sorry. I say John all day.
None of them say got history on them.
That's true.
that's all right, Bob. No worries. Maybe I get started.
None of them's got their name in the window either.
All right.
It's actually been pretty busy. Number one, I don't know what the hell it was. If it was variant number 97 of COVID,
Oh no.
but something got into my chest, got into my throat, and has been whipping my ass up one side of the street and down the other.
Mm-hmm.
For about 2 or 3 weeks. Finally getting clear of it a little bit. So it slowed me down a little. Nevertheless, even through that, we have been hitting the 80th anniversary. We are squarely on the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of the Battle of Anzio, or at least its beginning. So we did some Panzer Leader. I put out an invite to Discord to all my Panzer Leader people, including you, Bill. And I was like, hey, we're gonna run some Anzio stuff. We have stuff for the British and for the Americans. Damon was the first person to reply, so we started off with the British. And part 1 is up on our YouTube channel. So we built that game, drew that map, made those counters, and went ahead and featured that game. Part 1 is already up. It's been up for about a week. It's doing pretty well, about 400 views. Part 2 is going up either later tonight or early tomorrow morning, again, depending on where you are in the world. And so far it's doing pretty well. The game, if you've checked out the link so far, it's I'm kind of getting my ass handed to me a little bit. Won't lie. I'm playing the Germans. Our friend Damon Bretnall is playing the British, but he hasn't won yet. And because of some moves that I made earlier on in the game, the burden of victory is definitely on him. He's got a long road to hoe, literally. He has to open up this rail line and this road to try and hold open an escape path for some other retreating German units. I'm sorry, some other retreating British units. And all the details are in the video, so I won't belabor the point here. But it's 1st London Scots and 46th Royal Tank Regiment up against some other German units mixed in there as well, but predominantly Panzer Battalion 103, 3rd Panzer Grenadier Division. Part 1 went up exactly on the 80th anniversary, 4 February 1944. And again, later on tonight or early tomorrow, we'll feature Part 2. And for those familiar, or I should say for those unfamiliar, Anzio starts technically 22 January. If you've ever seen the Robert Mitchum movie, which is not accurate at all, to be honest, but if you've ever seen the Robert Mitchum movie, or if you're familiar with the Battle of Anzio, the Americans and British go ashore on 22nd January, and they just kind of sit there for 9 days. So they don't even really get moving until January 31st, I think it is. And when they finally do get moving, by now the Germans have absolutely ringed them in all these reinforcements. So long story short, take your first shot.
Hey.
Here you go. We're going to be doing Anzio for quite a while because the Battle of Anzio drags on. Some people say June. Most people usually say like May 30th, but well into summer. Huh? Yeah. Well, that's the problem. When you land a surprise landing in the enemy's flank, that's the whole point of Anzio. So the Americans and the British, American 5th Army, Mark Clark, the British 8th Army, no longer under Montgomery, but The British 8th and the American 5th under Alexander's, I think it was at that time 15th Army Group. They've done their Salerno landings. We did our 80th anniversary material on that back in September of last year. And, they've done the main Italy landings, and they start advancing up the boot. They run into the Gustav line, anchored at places like Monte Cassino. And there's another name that everybody's heard at least once, because that was an absolute,
Mm-hmm.
it might as well be in World War I at that point. It was an absolute shit show where nobody was moving anywhere. So the plan was, let's get a couple divisions. They were put together under U.S. 6th Corps under General John Lucas, and let's throw them around the side of the Germans and land them on the west coast of Italy, just south of Rome, a place called Anzio. And now with, 4 or 5 Allied divisions, I think 2 or 3 American and 2 British divisions, now behind the main German line, we have, the idea was, okay, we'll kind of crowbar the Gustav line out of position. We'll break things loose. We'll move through Monte Cassino, up those valleys, up the Italian boot, and we'll open up the road to Rome. Fortunately, he, took 9 days to consolidate his bridgehead. He moved in 3 miles. I mean, can you imagine that at any other landing? Can you imagine that at D-Day later on? You land and you just literally sit there on the sand basically for 9 days. The initial landings were unopposed and did surprise the Germans. But when you give guys like Bettinghoff and Kesselring, these are pretty solid German commanders. These weren't the dummies. When you give them 9 days to react to your operational movement, before you know it, you're surrounded by 100,000 Germans, 2 armored divisions, Panzer Grenadier division, a bunch of infantry divisions. You're going nowhere.
Yeah.
And that was what wound up taking so long. At the end of the day, anyone who's read this material, but Anzio was supposed to break things loose for the main Allied line. It turned out to be kind of the opposite by the end. It turned into such a failure, basically. It's still kind of a sore spot in American military history to this day. A lot of people like to throw blame around and so on and so forth. If you watch the Robert Mitchum movie, they changed the name of all the generals. All the generals have fake names, including Mark Clark. It doesn't appear in it. It's some other name they made up. James Lucas doesn't appear. He appears in the show, but they changed all his names. Otherwise, the Army wouldn't cooperate with the studio.
Oh,
Interesting.
It's. I mean, this is back in '69, but when they made this movie, but it's not exactly our finest hour. And it wound up being that the main Allied line had to rescue the Anzio beachhead instead of the other way around.
Oh, wow.
But anyway. That's what that's the big 80th anniversary thing that's going to be kind of chewing through. We're also going to be doing, actually we already have it played and recorded, but we're going to be doing some Tarawa stuff. That's going to be very late. We might be doing some Gilbert stuff. That's February of 44. So right about now would be the 80th anniversary of that. And building up toward D-Day, which of course is coming up in June. It's going to be the 80th anniversary of the D-Day, of course, Overlord, Normandy, and all that. But that's pretty much what we've been working on down here at SITREP South.
Nice. You know what? I wonder, could we do D-Day Beach, Omaha, or in 6 Mil? Yeah, we'll have to look at that. Yeah.
It's a tough board to build. I've done it.
Yeah.
The terrain is very tough. Many people choose not to do it just for the terrain.
Yeah.
It's not just a beach. It's a beach and bluffs, and you have to get the draws right.
Yeah.
And then the Widerstand-Ester bunkers have to be built a certain way into the bluff. So
interesting.
I've done it.
A challenge to you, Marty.
It's I can send you.
I'm not doing it.
I was gonna say I can send you
stuff.
I can send you the materials. But anyway,
that's very cool. It's busy year. Excellent, Jim. Nice work. Christopher.
Yes. Well, Marty and I assisted a good friend of ours at Holy Wars. And,
Wait, it was Holy Wars already?
Yeah, last weekend.
Did you get coverage?
I got some pictures.
Got some pics.
God. Go ahead.
No, we were working. We were muscle.
Go ahead.
Carrying heavy shit. But no, it was good. Learned a lot. My good luck helped out Marty.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was really my good luck
It's mine.
Sounds like Marty's good luck.
Did you
I mean,
win
I-
something in the raffle?
So
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So I bought $80 worth of raffle tickets and got zero, nothing. Again,
Meanwhile, I spent the same amount. I got 4
He's got a-
tickets.
yeah, he's got a golden horseshoe up his ass. This guy's
Not when
getting
it
his name
matters.
called every 3 minutes.
Not when it mattered though, because all the stuff that I wanted was gone. So I walk up there, I'm like, well, Marty needs an army, so I picked up a big army pack, gave it to him.
Yeah, I
Wow.
got the Dominion box.
Nice.
Very cool.
And then he had gone. I gave you a ticket to go up there, and you completely glossed over one of your units that you wanted.
They moved
Fine.
everything around. I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
Vince was putting the pressure on me, man. Get your
Yeah.
stuff. Go.
So his Maria won a ticket for
My
him.
daughter.
So, yeah. So he had 5 trips up to the table, basically,
Wow.
for
Yeah.
winning nothing.
Very cool.
And that Dominion box, Marty, pretty good.
It's got a bunch of stuff in it. That's for sure. Still working on assembling.
Very good. All right. Marty.
Well, as Chris said, we hung out with our good friend Steve Herner last weekend at Holy Wars. A good time was had by all. I got a bunch of so for those that don't know, Holy Wars is an Age of Sigmar narrative tournament. It's not your average competitive type of deal. Steve has now, I think we're at 20 tables total that have been built, and they're all custom made tables. All the tables have special rules. So it's a pretty fun event. It's not your average, this isn't competitive match play at all.
Mhm.
That's why it's fun.
He does such a great job.
And there nobody shows up with a 3-color army to this thing. Everybody goes try hard on their stuffs. Obviously, some people are at different levels than others, but everybody shows up with a fully painted army that looks good.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to see that stuff. As Chris also said, I kind of cleaned up, even though I didn't actually win anything at the raffle. So I got a Dominion box. I got a couple of boxes of dudes. I got some individual characters. All AOS stuff, because the players all bring something and contribute it to the raffle prize. So it's not like prize support straight from GW kind of thing. It's the players are bringing this, and I mean they're all unopened boxes. Some might be older than others, whatever, but they bring that, and then all the raffle proceeds, all the proceeds from the entire event go to Hesed House, which is a local homeless shelter and social service organization here. So I think we came in just over $5,000 raised for Hesed House.
Nice.
Total.
That's very cool.
Great.
Yeah.
Very
so,
good.
Pretty excited about
games, sir. Vince.
Yeah, Warhammer Weekly plays. So Vince and Tom were there. Gotta love that. Matter of fact, Vince Vincerella is the one that calls out the raffle.
Oh, he was there, huh?
Oh yeah.
He was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he goes to all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, he goes to Holy Wars, Holy Havoc. He loves it. Matter of fact, if you look at this week's Warhammer Weekly, he was talking it up and had some very nice things to say about both Steve, the tournament, and kind of leaned into his topic of the week as far as like alternate victory conditions and being able to play multiplayer, because it's a doubles tournament. So
Mhm.
you're playing a 2,000 point army, but you got 1,000 points, your buddy's got 1,000 points, and then you're playing against 2 dudes that have 2,000 point armies as well.
Very good.
Marty and I were also involved in the painting competition
For
So you
judging,
said-
yeah, didn't submit anything.
Mhm.
Woo, let me tell you, that
Mhm.
gets heated.
Yeah.
Woo, bring your A game if you're going to that.
Did Vince judge on that as well?
No, Vince had a submission in it. So
Oh,
he
shit.
Judge.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And he did he went deep into that competition, we'll say.
Well, I bet he did.
I could say that much. I can't can't disclose what all happened in the judging room, but
Yeah. He's one of the reasons why I went with Pro Curls, just so you know.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yep.
Good stuff. So actually hobby related type of stuff that I've done. So I continue to work on my my in-country guys. So work in progress. I'm trying to work out a desert scheme. I don't know if you can see that guy. I'm not sure I'm happy with that. But I've got, I don't know, 8 of those dudes on the table that I'm working on. I decided I needed some new brushes, so I can't afford, Artis Opus brushes. So I got Da Vinci Kolinsky Sable brushes.
Hey,
which
there
are
you go. You know
much
what?
more affordable and seem to get the job done. I'm liking them so far.
A brush is a tool. A tool is only as good as the person who uses it. Yes, there are crappy tools, but it's fine.
Well,
Some people like the Dollar General's
Yep.
brushes. They use them till they wear out, and then they buy another set.
and I have some of those. The thing that I was going for is I need a brush that holds the tip. And that's where your dollar store brushes aren't so good at that. You can base coat and do a lot of stuff with them, but if you're trying to do some fine detail painting, you need something that has a fine point.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that you need a microscopic brush. It means you need a brush that has a good point.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of my most detailed painting is done with rather large brushes.
Right.
So yeah, it's the quality of the brush, and then how you use it and how you maintain it. Like my bad habit is I always sink the brush way too far into the paint, so the base of
it
the
gets in the ferrule,
gets gunked, and once it's in there, you're never getting it out, and that's where your bristles start to spread.
Yeah, I was gonna say your tip blows up, and
so
I use a dry brush.
Yeah, I was gonna say I literally have 2 jars, and I do buy expensive brushes, and people do give me expensive brushes, but where my cheapskate is the paint. I all my stuff's done with like apple barrel crap from the craft store, except for some of the washes, and then probably like you, I start off with my nice 4-aught brushes, the special horsehair brushes that are hold the perfect point, and then once they get to a certain point, they get downgraded to the other little jar, and that's like your terrain brushes, your dry brush, and then when that goes, it goes in the third can, which is in the kitchen. Clunk. Goodbye. See you in the landfill.
I mean, if nothing else, I can always use it to mix paint in my airbrush cup or something. Or it becomes like some sort of weathering, crazy, if I'm putting I don't know, like terrain effects on there, like mud or modeling compound or something like that, and I need a brush to push it around on a face or something. That's what I do.
Marty, you want to take credit for Dennis's problem?
You're welcome, sir. By the way, warehouse sale still going on. Dennis, 50% off.
This is what Marty does, by the way.
I mean, got my NXS dudes right here. That's the base coat for my desert stuff. This guy hasn't been painted yet because I've got 3 different patterns going, and I think actually, since we're doing this, I think this is the pattern I'm going to try to go with. I know you can't see that super well, but I think that's how I'm gonna do.
All right.
But it took me a while. Cool. Took me 3 dudes to figure out that that pattern that I thought looked right. And then that's all that is just the pattern on his uniform. I haven't painted anything else on him yet. So like I said, work in progress. More to follow.
All right.
And then I won the Dominion box. I've also been putting that together. GW has really nice models, not gonna lie. But those fiddly little sons of good man.
Wait until you put a Malifaux box together.
Who puts a seam down the middle of a cape? Yeah, I've not been a fan of some of them. But if you're familiar with AOS, I've been assembling the Stormcast Eternal side of that box, and I've got almost all of it done. I think I have 2 more dudes to do, and then that'll be done.
$1,400.
Very cool. All right, Marty. I think it's that time.
Says you.
Listen up, people. It is time for the news with Marty. What in the wide of world wargaming is going on? Let's in on the scuttlebutt. Bring on the awesomeness that is wargaming.
Yes. Okay, hold on. Let me get my news up. Here we go. All right. So first things first. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned World War I earlier, Jim. Although we were talking about Anzio. For those of you that might be familiar with our good friends over at Warlord Games, they have a World War I game, and it's called Blood and Valor. So Blood and Valor End of Games is an expansion book for Blood and Valor, or End of Empires, excuse me. I'm saying games. The End of Empires is an expansion book for Blood and Valor. You still have to have the core book for it. So the expansion book has been out for a while. However, if you go into their download section, they've put out some free PDFs to support it. So they've got some new army lists. So if you want to play Russian Imperial Army or Japanese Imperial Army, they've got new leaders and whatnot in there. And it's, like I said, it's a free download. So if that's your jam, what is that, 1905-ish, right at the turn of the century, there's some rules, so you can get your little Imperial Army action going, whether you're a Rusky or on the Japanese side.
There you go.
So wait a minute. So that's not actually World War I?
Are you talking
it
Russian
Russo-Japanese
War,
Wars,
whatever it was?
1904-05.
It's the rule set is the core rule set is World War I.
Yeah,
this is an expansion, so you can play other wars as well.
Russo-Japanese
Wars or other conflicts. Yeah. Yep. That's
yeah.
it.
I demoed Blood and Valor with the Firelock team at Historicon. So I only really got to play it once, but I'll tell you this: it's got one. I still say that the Blood and Valor's got one of the most innovative initiative systems I've ever seen, and I've been working since the mid '80s. It's got. The rest of the game is kind of like in a lot of 20mm war games, skirmish kind of war games. But the way that game handles initiative is actually pretty interesting.
Well, I'm sure that Rufus appreciates that. I know that they put a lot of work into it.
Very cool.
And man, playing the Russians in 1905 is bad enough, but 1905 or World War I. You think they're bad in World War II. You think they're bad in Ukraine. If you're playing them under Tsar Nicholas II, you're a glutton for punishment, man, because damn. That's got to be one of the worst armies I've ever seen.
Well, we can't all be Napoleon in his heyday. I don't know what to tell you.
All right, what's next, sir?
All right, so moving on, we're gonna go from the early 1900s to a little earlier than that with Dead Man's Hand, Rideau. So they've updated and are re-releasing Dead Man's Hand, if you're familiar with that game. So it was a Kickstarter, and it's being fulfilled. It'll probably be shipped in April, it looks like, or March, April timeframe. So you can't get it unless you were Kickstarter backer right now. However, as soon as that's fulfilled, it will all become available retail and online sales.
Gotcha.
So they got an updated deck. They got new factions. They've got new scenes. They've expanded their rules and have a campaign system in it. So they've also been cranking out new miniatures. So they've got Rangers and Families and Pioneers and a bunch of other things. They've got plastic terraining. So lots of good stuff going on there. If you're into the Western genre, this is one to consider.
Very nice. That looks good.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting. I kind of stumbled across that on accident, looking at something else, and I'm like, "Whoa,
Hang on now.
Wait a minute. Warlord Games. Speaking of when is enough enough, Warlord Games
Holy moly!
has a bunch of crap out for pre-order.
Yeah.
Specifically, what I wanted to talk about was if you're looking for 28 mil
Yep.
American Civil War miniatures,
Wow.
then check out their pre-order. I think I talked about this like a month ago, but they've fleshed out their line a little bit. So you've got your choice of infantry brigades advancing or firing, or single regiments advancing or firing, and a bunch of artillery. One of the kind of innovative things I think they've done with this, though, is all of these sets are designed to be either the North or the South, depending on how you build them out and how you paint them. So if you pick your blue or gray here, but you don't have to buy separate sets to have to flesh out your infantry. You put the Confederate flag on there, you do some other detailing, and there you've got the South. You want them to be North, again, different flag, paint them blue. You've got your Union forces. So
there you go.
That's pretty cool. Flexibility.
You need some different heads on the sprues or something like that, because the headgears get a little different.
Excuse me.
In some of the armies.
Yeah, I don't know that they get that historically accurate.
Okay.
Hey, Bill, you don't have those yet, do you?
Shh. No.
Chris.
Yeah, I'm not the enabler. That's Marty.
I'm doing the news. I do this for the people.
Generally, they wear a lot of the same stuff, but some of the equipment, like the Union bedroll, is usually different.
Yeah.
A lot of the regiments and brigades are wearing the same capos, but of course, the Confederate regiments tend to wear different kind of hats. So yeah, I mean, I guess you could do it if you changed, especially in 28 mil. At 6 mil, you could easily get away with it, but at 28 mil, some of the weapons are different. Yeah, some of the weapons are going to be different. But yeah, I'm sure it's close enough.
Yeah, I mean, it'll get dudes on the table so you can go fight your battles for sure.
Change one or two things and you could probably pull it off.
I was gonna say, I think you could as long as we don't get too rivet countery, we'd be all right.
Yep. What's next, sir?
And if your jam is historical detail, those models exist. It's just not the line that Warlord's pushing here.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, our good friends over at Spectre Miniatures. So these guys have been on a roll. You remember back in our first show of the year, I was talking about their plan for the year, and they are sticking to it. So they have launched their upgraded versions of their favorite Tier 1 operatives and added hostage figures to it. So you can flesh out your scenarios there. You can use your hostages as objectives. There's some pretty good looking miniatures they got there. They also, as you can see, they've redone their website. So I like their new website. It's I think it's definitely more visually appealing than the way the old one was set up. So kudos to Steve and Jess and everyone else that's over there working on it. And let's see here. What else? They are also getting into STL printing. They've been doing that a little bit. So if you own a 3D printer, you can get some STLs from them as well.
Yeah.
So, and for those that ask, because every now and then we get this, in the U.S., the distributor for their rule set is Blacksite Studios. So if you want the rules specifically, look at Blacksite Studios as well. If you're here in the U.S., so that way you don't have to, pay for and wait for the shipping from the UK.
Exactly.
Hey, Billy, there's a figure on this page that you might have to do for Cody.
What's that? Down. Can't hear you.
Down. Scroll down. There's a figure for Cody.
Oh, the EOD,
Oh, the
guy.
EOD guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Yep. And that is my news. So
I have more.
I was
But
gonna
wait.
say now
Good.
jump in and let us have it.
All right. To expand our audience a little bit, we've included some non-ish historical stuff. The first thing that comes up is found on GameFound, which is another crowdfunding source, and that is Song of Ice and Fire Tactics. I know nothing about this. Dawn, what do you know?
Just what I have looked at so far. So they are taking the Song of Ice and Fire IP and bringing it down to, that's a rank and file, larger battle game, and now we're bringing it down to skirmish level with this. I haven't watched the playthrough videos yet. I have to say this one has my attention. How could that dragon not get your attention?
Right?
It's pretty awesome. And that dragon is, of course, only part of the Kickstarter.
Did you back this?
Not yet, but I'm gonna. Just to be clear. Well, to be fair, and I don't know that you pulled this one up, I did want to kind of try to side by side. Ironically, Night Models is also bringing a skirmish level Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. I'm not sure which angle.
Game of Thrones. They're calling it Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's Game of Thrones, yeah.
And I don't know which one I want to go with. So I need to look at both. Yeah. I do find it interesting that this is only a 2-week Kickstarter game found. I guess we need to call it what it is. But it looks really cool. What I thought was very fascinating is that because it is meant to be down to individual battles, you can see on the dragon, the towers that exist within it actually have playable game space where you are meant to be with another model having fights.
One-offs.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's kind of cool. So I think there is different interesting elements to it. I need to watch the playthroughs.
But, I mean, from a scenery standpoint, that's pretty badass.
It's pretty cool. Look at that. I mean,
yeah.
Come on.
Very nice. Right? Does it?
I can't wait to see how you paint it up, Don.
Hold your breath, Marty. Well, we'll get there someday.
Yeah. It's called commission painting.
Very cool.
Gaz needs to trip over, right?
Yeah. I paint with dollars.
Yeah.
Here's some dollars.
I think that looks pretty cool. I'm very tempted.
It'd probably be cheaper than a whole set of Artist Opus paintbrushes.
Probably.
Baby, watch the reviews and buy both.
You're not helping, Fabian. Not helping at all.
Night Models makes really good stuff.
They do. They're Harry Potter models.
And that's kind of where I'm at with. I don't know which way I want to go because I know what those Batman models look like. So
didn't Night do Batman models as well?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean,
that's pretty sharp.
So I have to ask back to what you were just showing. Does Baratheon if this is skirmish, does it come with a warthog?
I do not know.
I didn't see one, but not sure.
That's what killed him in the end, remember?
All right.
I was going to ask.
Go ahead, Jim. What
I was going to ask is, on a more serious note, I'd be interested in seeing some of those playthroughs.
Yeah.
I understand that it's they always say that, fantasy is basically medieval or ancients with better special effects. However, I've seen the show. We all know how powerful those dragons are, especially in the later seasons of that show. Those dragons look pretty big. I understand it's a skirmish game. I want to see how they include units that powerful in a skirmish game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's great playing like force on force. It's great playing a skirmish game until someone brings an Abrams on the table.
Right.
And then it's like, okay, how many insurgents do you need to balance the game against an Abrams?
Right.
In a skirmish game, how many times do you get to bring in an A10 or something like that? This is kind of the same thing. I mean, with a unit that powerful, how big does the opposing force have to be? Because I'm assuming if we're going by the setting as presented in those novels or in the television show, only one side has units that powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So toward the end,
do you know if that dragon's actually playable or is it just a decoration piece?
I don't know.
Okay.
Well, yeah, it may not
I think it may just be there for show.
That might be the
but-
answer to my question. Yeah.
But
I
and
mean-
to your point, Jim, I would hope that if that is in fact the case, since the game isn't set up, they're not touting both sides get a dragon or anything like that, that if it has a play in it, maybe it would be like a timed effect to help keep you on task and escalate the pace of what it is that you're supposed to be accomplishing, so that you
'Cause,
get into the fights that
one-
you're supposed to before something bad happens with that. But
one of the few things I liked about that series was that they actually had some detail in the campaign. Robert in the North, they actually gave you some of his numbers, and they give you an idea about how big some of those battles are. And there's only at the most 3 dragons, later 2, later 1, at least in the canon battles. And yeah, I mean,
yeah, could be Dennis.
one army, 2 armies. Sorry, 1 dragon, 2 dragons. Meanwhile, someone's got 20,000 people. Okay, that's great. That's just not a skirmish game at that point.
Mhm.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
just a
that'd
lot
be
of
interesting to
targets for
see.
the dragon.
Yeah,
To
do I
me,
get
it
a-
seems more of a board gamey game
Kind of.
versus an actual like miniatures skirmish war game. But we'll see. We'll see.
do
all
I
right.
get a 700-foot wall made out of ice?
Right.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
There's that too. All right. To a shout out to our friend Ronnie Renton from Mantic Games. He's got a Kickstarter coming up on Wednesday, the 14th. It is his answer to Games Workshop's Legion Imperialis. And we are now talking Epic Warpath. Again,
Oh.
yes. So there's not much information because it won't show until the launch, but you can watch a playthrough video or something from Mantic HQ. But if you're into sci-fi epic scale, this might be something you want to look at. Damn it. This is
make
part
that-
of my enough is enough.
Make
Those
make
are
that
have
one
to
more
be-
shelving unit, Don.
Yeah. Link it on Amazon.
So,
Yeah, just
you
set
know,
up a subscription.
the interesting thing, and this is how I tie it into historicals. So, not so much probably this game, but like Jim's point to Song of Ice and Fire, some of these fantasy battles, even the old world from GW, rank and file games, you can translate some of those rank and file games to like Napoleonic, saying, it's rank and file, right? You can go back. We were talking in the last show about ECW, War of Roses, all that stuff. All that stuff was rank and file. It wasn't modern warfare where you're doing cover and weapons and blah blah blah. So it translates from historical rank and file to fantasy rank and file with just weird stuff, right? Magic and
Yeah.
weird weapons.
I
and-
like this. This is the weird step symbol.
Yeah,
You
well,
heard it here first.
As Jim said, it's
jazz hands.
it's medieval with better effects.
Right, as Jim said. So
Back in the day when we were anyway, we've done some writing on not just historical but also fantasy,
mhm.
and to even push the point a little bit further. You can take a lot of what you see on a fantasy battlefield and even bring it into 20th century combat or even modern combat, because a battlefield is a battlefield. And at the end of the day, the commanders of said battlefield are trying to solve a lot of the same problems. How to apply, direct firepower in a highly mobile way
Mhm.
onto a certain, point target. Okay, I have, you have dragons, I have Apaches and warthogs. I have a mass teleport spell that takes a brigade of my lancers. Poof, they're now behind the enemy line. Okay, I have a teleport spell. You have, a squadron of Hueys. At the end of the day, you're trying to do the same thing. Meanwhile, the enemy's trying to do something to you. You have some sort of counter magic or dispel magic or sort of magical protection spell. That's your electronic warfare. Especially as you continue to click up as far as like the size of the battle, maybe not in skirmish, but in like the larger set battles.
Yeah.
Outside of the linear tactics that you mentioned that would correspond to, ECW, Napoleonics, even maybe as late as maybe even American Civil War. Because what sets American Civil War apart from those, Napoleonics, I mean, a lot of the tactical combat, especially in the earlier war, was distressingly similar. Hence, we see the huge casualty numbers.
Yeah.
But what sets that war apart is the railroad and the telegraph. And in fantasy settings, armies move around a lot faster than they should. Hence, fantasy, and even more so, battlefield communications is a lot faster.
Yeah.
There's a lot of telepathy. It's all this stuff that sounds. I don't want to say silly, but all of the fantasy elements do actually have pretty strong modern or even like World War I, World War II parallels.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I have one last item, and this is a Kickstarter. Go figure.
Mhm.
It's a printable terrain that can be used for any genre: historical, fantasy, sci-fi, whatever. And that is called Rugged Hills Design, I believe, right? Rugged Hills Design Master Tiles. So you print these tiles.
Oh, these.
Yeah. We watched a video on it, and I backed it. Managed. Go figure.
Mhm.
So now I have to buy a 3D printer. But
Shocker.
but as you can see, you can print up different tiles, create a board. And they have other tiles, so it's not all rocky. But I just thought it was a great way to put a playing surface together for no matter what. And then, Jim, I thought about you when I was not printing these, but looking at this, and now that we're kind of expanding a little bit, we're pushing the borders. I really want to see some BattleTech.
Oh, there you go.
And I know you really dig the BattleTech stuff,
It's I have a pretty large BattleTech force.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I played.
I can tell you, it has a very strong presence at Adepticon.
Mm-hmm.
I'll put it to you this
Yeah.
way. I mean, especially since we have a lot of European people on our stream today. First of all, thanks very much for coming out.
Yes.
1992, I was part owner of a gaming store, and BattleTech, some 12, some 15, some 16-hour games. BattleTech. It was 1997 until I even heard of Warhammer 40K, and even that was by accident. My dad was in Scotland on vacation, and he wandered into a GW store, not knowing what he was getting into, and he got that Warhammer 40K cell that you get right when you walk in the store. They pretty much threw a bag over his head. They hit him with a baseball bat, and he found himself in a trunk of a car.
Cricket bat.
Yeah. And I mean, not that 40K is completely plagiarized, but it's pretty much completely plagiarized. He thought it was Renegade. He thought it was Renegade Legions, which was a relatively popular game over there. The point is, I mean, I'm not going to say that 40K doesn't have a huge presence in the United States, but it's always, especially back in the 80s and 90s, it was BattleTech. And conversely, if you try to go to Asia, you try to go to South Korea, Japan, nobody's freaking heard of BattleTech. Everyone's playing Robotech.
Yep.
And then you come back to Europe, and it's all about especially in those states, it's all about 40K again. The one difference being that FASA didn't really make it through the 90s because of all kinds of legal problems, and GW did. So 40K was left kind of the last man standing in that regard. But absolutely, back in the day, BattleTech was absolutely huge, and it still is. I mean, Catalyst Game Labs picked it up. Microsoft bought all the video game licenses. That's another problem with BattleTech right now, is the licensing is all over the place. We did a cool article series about it back in the day. I even interviewed their director of marketing. So I think it was director of marketing, marketing or product development. I mean, BattleTech's not going anywhere anytime soon. I can promise you that.
And to kind of caveat off of what Bill said about them at Adepticon, it was crazy last year. The amount of people. First of all, they had a release, and they were some dudes were picking up orders there, but everywhere you looked, Catalyst Game Lab bags. Everywhere you look, they have a 40-foot inflatable out front.
At some of the cons, I don't know if you ever see one of these. I don't think it's maybe a Gen Con. They have the BattleTech simulator.
Yes,
and
they
it's
are
like
cool.
it's like the size of this office.
Yeah.
You sit inside of it and you power the mech.
Yeah.
You don't have one of those yet, Phil. Do you?
No.
There you go. Right. It's I mean, for people who don't live in the U.S. or haven't been to the U.S., it's almost like 40K here. It's absolutely huge. And in some ways, the game has been kind of a victim of its own success, especially back in the FASA days. So many source books came out. There's over 700 novels written just for BattleTech, and it's absolutely huge. And then you get into the rules permutations, and a lot of the people that also gets into how much is too much. A lot of the people who are really into BattleTech are really into BattleTech from the glory days of the 80s and 90s.
Right.
And what winds up happening is they still use a lot of those old rules, and a lot of those old rules include rules for updating and modifying your own mechs. You rip out certain parts, you put in new parts, and then you have to balance up the points and repoint your mech, and the paperwork gets friggin' crazy. This is me talking. The paperwork gets out of control, and then somebody new comes into it. And unfortunately, one of the smart things Catalyst Game Labs has done is they've come out with simplified rules like Alpha Strike and stuff like that, where you can kind of dip your toe into the BattleTech world and not immediately just sink to the bottom of the Marianas Trench, which is what BattleTech kind of can become very quickly. Like I said, the only thing that kept our crappy gaming store afloat was BattleTech and Vampire the Masquerade. Some of those games would last, literally 12 hours, and all we would do is go down to Walmart, buy those big 24 trays of Sam's Choice Cola, and like the big trays of like Fritos and Doritos and shit. And 25 in those days, 25 cents a can, 25 cents a bag, and again, this is 30 years ago, and sell everything for 50 cents. And at the end of the day, that was the only thing that kept us open, because we weren't making much money on anything else in those days. But it was, it's an insane game.
It's a great game. And I mean, like Jim said, you can play Alpha Strike rules, which are the fast entry rules. It'd be BattleTech Light is what I would call it. Yeah. And then if you really are, one of those guys who likes to get into the nitty gritty, I mean, if you look at the sheets, you got heat shields, and you got points. Yeah. I mean, it rivals Squad Leader in some aspects.
So there's almost like 3 levels. You play Alpha Strike. Alpha Strike, you get like a 3x5 card, and the whole game is like 4 numbers, and you're done. That's great. And then there's actual, like, Catalyst Game Lab came out with a new book, a new starter box. You get 25 little mechs in the starter box, and you can play it. It's the full rules, but it's like the beginning full rules, and even that is a little interesting. They got rules for, you rip off an enemy's like a big metal mech, you rip off his leg or you rip off his arm, and it says a little paragraph in the rules. Oh, by the way, that can be used as a club now.
Yes, you can beat them over the head with their own arm.
With their own arm. I mean, it's an insane game. And then there's the real deep dive when you get into the old school grognards who, I mean, I did it a little. My Clan Ghost Bear for life. To answer Fabian's earlier question about when I like to play. Yes, I'm one of those annoying clan players that Intersphere players actually hate, but that's okay. My whole army is my whole like 10,000 point force is basically 3 Timberwolves or Mad Cats, or whatever you want to do. And I pulled out some of the secondary weapons, and I just put in additional heat sinks, so I can fire my PPCs all day long.
Yeah.
And people hate that shit. It's the equivalent of the bolt action player who's like, oh, I want to play bolt action. I want to learn about World War II. My whole army is 3 King Tigers. What are you going to do about it? And I'm that guy in BattleTech. The more serious players in BattleTech stick to the inner sphere, because they want more realistic armies that are well balanced and basically like us in World War II. And then along comes, Gariskity Jim with his,
you're there to do some crazy shit.
His 3 jacked up, Mad Cats, and it's like, okay, I win again. Yeah. And it's like, well, there's no fun playing with you. But anyway,
classic.
Rambled enough.
So, I haven't finished with you yet, there, Sir Jim.
Uh-oh.
As we push the border. So we talked about BattleTech. There is another sci-fi game that we really should see more meat and potatoes from. It's called Dark Star.
Oh Lord, you're opening that can of worms again. That's a pit that you can sink into.
There are a lot of people, if you look at our Discord and stuff, that love playing Dark Star. And they have been asking for some Dark Star. I have yet to play Dark Star. I watch you guys play it. It seems great. I want a fleet. I want to play.
Okay. Start one up. It's one of those games. So for people who may not be familiar, Dark Star is a tactical starship game that really harkens back to the old 80s days. It does draw heavily from things like Starfleet Battles, FASA Starship Tactical Combat Simulator, old Renegade Legion games by FASA called Leviathan, although don't judge it by that. Leviathan was not the best game in that series. Jen says Dark Star kicks ass. Yeah, the thing, you can sit down. There's Tough Years. Tough Years has a Walmart fleet out there in space. It's a long story. There's 10 basic factions. It's basically World War II in space. It's that's a very general, reductive way to put it. But it's I'm just looking at the comments. Sorry, it's excuse me. Still got this cough. It's basically 1900 to 1950 in space. There are 10 basic factions, and the factions are to go back to BattleTech. It kind of uses the BattleTech model. There are no aliens. Okay, you're not going to run across Vulcans, Klingons, because the odds of actually finding anybody out there are next to nothing. Let's be real. And the odds of finding somebody, even if you did find somebody of any kind of similar tech level, are just infinitesimally small. So the Earth has more or less collapsed environmentally because you have to have a reason why Germany and Russia fight at Serpentis instead of in Poland like they always do. So the Earth has pretty much collapsed, and now there's no more resources on Earth. So everyone has to go out into the stars to gather the resources they need to rebuild what's left of the human race. And that's where you get into all these little skirmish battles. Meanwhile, like I said, Earth is kind of struggling through a several centuries long recovery. So no one can really come to the mat and really like have like an all-out World War V, out there in the rings of Saturn for no reason. There's plenty of space. There's plenty of resources. There's more fresh water on some asteroids than there are on all the oceans of Earth put together. So there's no reason to really, the point is, before I go off on another huge ramble, is unlike a lot of space games, Star Wars, Star Trek, Space Battleship Yamato, pretty much any war game that you have that takes place out in space has one fundamental flaw. It was a movie first, or a comic book first, or an anime first, or a manga first, or who knows what, a TV series first. And the show or movie or whatever, the other media is going to have established certain rules that make it fun for a TV show or a movie or whatever. Okay, then great. Now the game designer has to sort of convert that into game mechanics, and it almost never works. Transporters will ruin most Star Trek games if you actually pay attention to how transporters work. Jedi will ruin most Star Wars games if you really pay attention to how they work and what they can actually do. The wave motion gun will ruin any Space Battleship Yamato game. Dark Star was built as a game first, and the universe was built to facilitate exactly the kind of, all the way back to the 500 years in the history of the world. Why there's not AI? Why everything's not fought via drone? Why the ships aren't just artificially intelligent? Because nobody wants to play a robot. You want to play a captain standing on the deck of a ship ordering broadsides into enemy ships. Why the space battles take place over and over again? There's no geography out there. There's no neutral zone. The Klingon Empire is here. The Federation is here. There's none of that nonsense. Because we want any faction to be able to play any other faction. And what makes Dark Star the thing, and what makes it a pit into which you will literally spend the next year of your life, if you're not careful, is the game has sort of a advanced system. So it's not a role-playing game by any means, but you do earn points when you play the same ships and commanders over and over again. And before you know it, you can start buying upgrades. You get promotions. You can actually track your guy's career. You start off usually as a lieutenant commander in command of a frigate. Commander, you pick up a destroyer. Captain, you pick up a light cruiser or a heavy cruiser, and then you go up from there. Pretty soon you're commanding fleets. And people get into it. And then you lose one of these kick-ass commanders, and people get pissed all of a sudden. I've been working on that guy for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, and all of a sudden, you start having like these battles in gas giant atmospheres, and you get pulled down into that, Jovian gravity. There are rules for gravity. There's rules for it's a little bit to get into. And again, it's one of those games where you can start to modify your ship a little bit, jack up your point cost, but it's nowhere near as complicated as BattleTech. We avoided that pitfall. But anyway, before we ramble on too much, like Jen says, more importantly, you can improve your ship. You can improve your ship before you can command certain levels of fleets. You have to go back to command school and pick up like task force commander or battle group commander, fleet commander. Yeah, you basically start a little cast of characters, a little cast
Okay.
of commanders. Before you know it, yeah, you almost feel like you're really out there.
Very nice.
Cool.
So yeah, maybe some Dark Star content,
Yeah.
some BattleTech content.
Yeah.
We'll say.
We're gonna need also some additional news, Marty. You have to
Yeah.
broaden
Well,
your,
we can all.
Or you
we
can
can
get
all,
off your dead ass and do something.
There's that, Marty.
Well,
There is
and
that.
I've got a couple of small things. Homeworld 3 has been postponed again.
What's Homeworld?
It's a outer space game, computer game.
Oh.
Pretty good followings. The previous Homeworlds were really well received. And then D&D this year is at their 50th anniversary.
Yep.
So
yeah, that'll be a big party at Gen Con this year.
You think?
Yeah. And at Gary Con.
Yeah, we were there for what release were we there for? Was it 5th edition? No, it wasn't 5th edition. I remember, but we were at Gen Con one year and they had a huge release party. So yes, we agree. Chris, you're very hard to hear. We need a better microphone.
Yeah, I'll get one.
Okay. You have a whole box of microphones, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. All right, let's transition to our topic. It's only been an hour, so let's go ahead and transition. When is enough? And what do I mean by that?
She's had enough of your shenanigans.
Exactly.
Oh, we're not talking about that.
No.
Oh,
she's not gonna.
This isn't Marital Advice Channel. This is SITREP podcast. But it's like every week there's a pre-order for something. I literally just got the Old World bundle, and before that it was Legion Imperialis. You get see Mantic's coming out with stuff. Game of Thrones is coming out with stuff. Warlord releases stuff almost every week. We haven't talked about Battlefront in a while. I'm not sure what's going on with Battlefront. If they haven't seemed to be releasing a lot of stuff recently. Maybe.
No, and I just looked at their site yesterday because I've been doing Adepticon prep work, and nothing jumped off the page at me for like, oh, that's new. We need to look at that. So.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, they haven't had anything in a while now. I mean, like since last fall. Does that sound right?
Could be.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Dawn was mentioning she was doing Adepticon prep work, and nothing is jumping out of the table like this. Oh my God, there's going to be this huge release. I mean, obviously, we'll talk to Ronnie about the game I just showed.
Warpath.
Warpath. Thank you. Wow. But okay, so for our players, Jim, did you want to answer Fabian's question?
Yeah, real quick. Fabian, it's a hex-based game. You do need hexes to play it. And the hexes are relatively large. As far as it's definitely agnostic as far as the models go. I mean, it's a game I wrote myself, so it doesn't it doesn't. In fact, the ships have very specific values as far as their mass, like they're just not displacement because they're not in the water, but how much they weigh. But I never give a length for the ships, because once you have a mass and a length, you're now starting to suggest a shape, and we never want to do that. There are also no drawings of the ships, because one of the things is we wanted the players to be able to envision them however they wanted. Some people have done 3D prints of their own, and they have a lot of fun, like literally designing their own starships and printing them out as far as what they look like. Of course, the values are very specific and the point costs, but as far as the models go, the only rule in the game is that there is a stacking limit. You can only have 3 ships on a hex. So you can use whatever models you want, and who knows what size hex grid you have. As long as you have where you can comfortably fit 3 models in a hex, you're fine.
Nice.
Very cool. All right. So back to the topic. Think about it. If you're always chasing the newest and greatest project, when do you get to play with the stuff you have? When do you get to develop your armies, your whatever? Really, do you really get to get into the game, or are you just chasing the next new thing? And I know, God knows, I've fallen victim to it. I have boxes that I have never opened because and it's like, oh, that looks like a great game, I want to get into it. You buy the set, and the next thing you know, something else comes out, and you buy that, and then that goes pushed back. And This came about because we were watching a video the other night on YouTube. I can't remember her names. She's from Ireland. She talks about mostly GW stuff, and she was talking about their business model. Their business model now is
Discourse.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Discourse minis. Yeah.
Yes, and and how she's talking about GW just constantly pounds you with pre-order, because that's their business model. They want to get all that excitement. They build up all this excitement. They want you to buy this stuff. And they don't maintain, per se lines so you can develop. They just want you to buy the newest stuff so they can get the cash grab, right? Then you think about the old days. I know I sound like an old fart. The old days of Avalon Hill.
Grognard.
Yes. you bought a game. Well, that's, not going to talk about Squad Leader, Advanced Squad Leader, because that's a whole nother world in of itself. Panzer Leader, Panzer Blitz. You bought the game.
Yeah.
Now
you
have the game, right? You could play it, you develop it, and then you have people like Jim who are like, you know what? This can be better. Let me do this. And I remember the General magazine, right? And they would send out supplements once in a while, and things like that. What were you gonna say, Jim?
Real quick. Yeah, I may have told the story before, but I'll make it super fast. So I've talked too much this episode already, but Panzer Leader came out, actually Panzer Blitz came out in 71, and you had 12 scenario cards in the game, and players would sit down. This is the 70s, so it's before the internet and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And you would play the 12 scenarios, and then players would write into the General magazine, like a stamp on the letter, back in those days, and say, look, I've played all 12 scenario cards, and there are still counters I haven't used. There are units that they came in the box that were never included in any of the 12 scenarios. And the reply back, and it was revolutionary for the time, again, more than 50 years ago now, we want you to make up your own scenarios. You have that same box, which was like $10 in those days. And not only can you play these 12 scenarios, but we want you to be able to make up your own scenarios. There are combinations of the map boards that were never used. There are counters that were never used. You could live on a desert island and technically never run out of games with that one box that you had, way back then. And again, to your point, also, they would continue to support that same game later on with, there was Panzer Leader, then there was, Power Leader. They brought in airborne units and they showed you how to play with that. Gliders for the Germans, gliders for the Americans, paratroopers for everybody. And, all the kinds of expansions that they came out with later, again, for that same initial box set.
Yeah. But to the point, you got to develop the game. You got to play it. You got to feel it. You got to roll through it. And granted, it's not an apples to apples because it's not a miniatures-based game. It was hex and counter game. But then you think about if you move into the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, you had D&D, right? D&D, you had the base set. Then you had the, depending on which set you went, if you went with basic or D&D. Basic, you had the red box, the blue box, the black box. I think there was the
old monster manual, the player's guide.
But it wasn't like you had, oh my God, I got to buy this one. I got to buy this one. Yes, modules came out, the guides came out, but it wasn't like every week something else was coming out. So you got to develop and play the game and grow with the game, and you didn't feel the pressure of, oh my God, I have to have this. And do you remember, Jim, Rel Partha miniatures to go with your D&D games? You go to the local hobby store and get your Rel Partha miniatures.
They're still, I think, technically making. I don't know, so I don't know. I don't want to say something bad, but I thought Rel Partha was like Ironwind Miniatures was either part of Rel Partha or vice versa or something like that. I'm not sure, but they still make BattleTech stuff. Like we were talking about BattleTech.
Nice.
It's like a little barn up in New Hampshire somewhere, but I think some version of them is still around.
Yeah. So you got to develop D&D, and then BattleTech, Robotech, BattleTech, Mech Warrior, those all started coming out, and you could build your mech armies, right? Where I think the downfall happened is, I hate to use them as the whipping boy, but I'm going to, and that's GW. GW starts coming out with fantasy. They come out with 40K in the late 80s, early 90s, I think it was. And at first, if you look at the catalogs, you developed your army. and you got to play with them and
Thanks, Steve.
develop your army, and then you would add on units to grow your army.
To be fair, we were talking about Battlefront before. Battlefront got to the point where they were making tanks that were used literally one day, like the crossing of the Rhine,
Yeah.
and they would still make the miniature for it. And they tried to give you everything you could to continue to develop your force, whatever faction you wanted to build and buy. And they only have, to my count, I think still only 4 editions. They're not coming out with a new edition every 2 years,
Right.
forcing you to buy new codexes, new rule books,
Yeah.
or you invested a bunch of money into an army, and now a new set of rules came out, and that army is a lot less powerful than it used to be. It's kind of worthless.
Or they
because
make you change the bases.
Yeah, that too.
Square base, round base, square base. But I mean, so I think GW is the one that really started. And then honestly, Kickstarter, the advent of Kickstarter really accelerated. Oh my God, I got to get the new shiny thing. I got to get this new release, because how many people, okay, so if you all watch YouTube videos, for those who do, I'm hoping you do because you're watching us. You see those people that present whatever in gaming, and they have a wall of games. We were guilty of it as well. A wall of games behind them. And you sit there and you look and go, how many of those have you really, truly played? And we bought a lot of stuff just for set decoration, let's be honest, in our set. So it's just like, at some point, don't you get oversaturated and like, I want to play this game. Like, Chris, you're playing Age of Sigmar, right? You're getting into Age of Sigmar.
Yep.
So
And D&D.
And D&D. I mean, D&D is in of itself. It's not a miniatures-based game unless you're 3.5, which sucked. Or 4th edition. Was it 4th edition? I think
you could always use miniatures if you wanted to.
You did, but I think it was 4th edition that was literally skirmish combat.
Yeah.
That's what it was about. It wasn't about the role-playing aspect.
A lot of more modern RPGs are getting that way.
Yeah.
It's like, just play a war game,
Yeah. Hence why Pathfinder became what it is. But Chris, with your Age of Sigmar stuff,
thing and
what's
build
that?
out the nuances of it, learn the
Yeah.
nuances of the army, and doing this one thing. One of the differences, though, is back when it was Panzer Leader, stuff like that, there wasn't that many things out there. So
that's the other side of the coin. Correct.
Now it's everywhere. Everybody's got to have their little niche, which is great. Doesn't mean that you have to go down that road. There are some people who never move outside of 40K.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's true.
I mean, if it wasn't for you, Bill, Dom would just be playing Malifaux and Magic the Gathering, right? For the most part. So, I mean, with you guys, I keep buying fucking armies on games I've never played. And it's all your fault.
Jim, is that your game club? Got a Keurig?
Yep, looks like it. Dust Creek House has a Keurig.
Uh-huh.
Nice.
Now the old gamers won't be so crabby.
Oh, you will.
Hey,
over caffeinated will be worse.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. Got to play fully caffeinated. Yes.
Very cool. So no, Chris, to your point, you're right. There's a lot more choice than there was years ago, and that's the thing. And I think it was tough years. Some people are just collectors; they're not really gamers; they just collect.
Mm-hmm.
I was guilty of that for a while. I mean, I still have it a little bit, but I am really trying to focus on what I buy, getting on the table, and wanting to play versus just having boxes sit here. Because
to be honest, I could never. I could. I mean, given the likely amount of time I have left on this little blue marble, I could literally not buy another war game for the rest of my life. Panzer Blitz, Panzer Leader, Valor and Victory, Force on Force, and Battle Group. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Don't
worst
forget
comes to
about
worst.
SITREP skirmish.
Oh yeah, I mean that's barely a war game, but yeah, it's fun once in a while. But yeah, to Chris's point, it's. I mean, you can sit down and play a game once and learn the basic rules and have fun at it, but you're not gonna get it As
Mhm.
far as like he was talking about the nuances and things like that, you're not going to get it until you played it 5, 10, 20 times, and only then are you really going to start. At least if it's a good game.
Right.
Mhm.
I think we almost need a happy medium. Yeah, back in the 70s, there was really one, maybe two companies coming out with a lot of war games. I mean, later on, like Jim Dunnigan stepped off. He started off, I think it was SPI or SSI. Victory Games kind of became an offshoot of Avalon Hill. You got into like some kind of companies, Decision Games, Matrix Games, things like that. But there wasn't that many. And nowadays, yeah, I almost agree. We almost have too many. And another problem that too many choices gives, not just on a single gamer personally,
Mhm.
but if you have like the average number of war gamers is never that high in a
Mhm.
given town. You might have like 100 war gamers in a decent sized city. If there's 1,000 games out there, what chance do you have mathematically of finding someone that plays your game?
Right.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
back when there was 10 games in the world, okay, it was a lot easier. But nowadays, there's so many games out there. Like a lot of times, people in the club, we don't get into arguments, but there's brisk discussions about, what system we're going to play next. Oh, there's too many systems. Everyone gets into Mark's tactical combat. Then I want to bring in battle group, and everyone's like, oh, why aren't we playing tactical combat?
Yeah.
Or why aren't we playing Panzer Leader? Or why aren't there's like 5 different games running around out there, and that's it becomes almost an issue.
Yeah.
Every week you have to learn a new game system because there's, even if you don't buy the game and and financially invest in it, physically store it, physically build and paint it, you go down to the club and someone else is featuring it. You got to learn the freaking rules. And then
Yes.
next week it's a different game. Next week it's
Yeah.
a different game. Next week it's a different game. It gets old quick.
It does, and that's why some of the newer games just die.
Yep.
Because nobody plays it, right? It's
I
like
mean, and like Malifaux, for example. I
Mhm.
mean, it still exists. It's still new things come with it. But to your point, Jim, about finding that pocket of people that also like it and want to play it, like our game store barely has anything, or even didn't last time I was there.
for Malifaux.
hmm So I mean, it's like you either then have to have a group of friends that that play, that you can get together with to do it, or now you're looking at like really just not getting to play it, or having to wait
Till
really long
Adepticon or
period of
something.
times, to be able to go do it. It does that. Say what you want. That is the case in point with GW, because they have all the game stores that support it have play groups from there, or they have their own stores that have play groups from there. It's like there is consistency. If that is a game, whether it be the fantasy or 40K, that you can find those people much easier to play it. So that like they do have that infrastructure set up.
Yeah.
However, with GW though, they're on a 3-year cycle with their games.
That is
So-
also fair. Yeah,
so-
you have
so
you have to be
then-
committing to playing a different way, and
If-
committing to spending a different way.
Yeah, and so and sometimes it's not a matter of introducing new models. They just rewrite the rules and they nerf somebody and buff somebody else.
Yep.
And oh, by the way, if you want to play this, you're gonna need to buy the core rules,
Yeah.
and you're gonna
Yep.
need to buy the book for your army. And if
The
you want to
codex,
know
yeah.
anybody else's army, you're
And
gonna
rebase everything you already own.
or yeah, I
yeah.
mean, so even if you're just in one game system there, it changes on a regular basis
Mhm.
with
Mhm.
their model, and with their business model. So you got to keep up with the times, or then back to what we were just saying about your play group, you got to find somebody that's I'm not going to play 10th edition, I'm only going to play 8th edition because 9th
Right.
sucked or whatever.
The army that I spent $1,200 on, and that's kind of a lowball number, suddenly isn't worth a bucket
Right.
of piss on the table anymore because
Yep.
they rewrote the rules, and
Yeah.
now I'm getting
Yeah.
the people are wiping the floor with me at every tournament or game I go to.
Well, that happened with the Tau. To Fabian's point, GW has Tau for people that like nice and aesthetics. I agree. I love the Tau just by the look of them. I have no idea how they play, but I know that they were not good in close combat. They were a ranged army, but then they buffed them, and now they're bringing back the Kroots. Brother
Yep.
Lloyd. So as to Marty's point, every reiteration of the updated rules or changed rules, they say, hey, you're too powerful. We're going to knock you down. You're not powerful enough. We're going to bring you up. And then the guy's like, dude, I just spent all this money to do this, to make my game, I can play against others, to be competitive. Now you've just,
Well,
but that's the GW model. Then they're like, now you have to buy this.
But it's not always the GW model. Through playtesting and stuff, they see, there's a certain way people are gaming the system, and they're doing this with that, and to make it more even, they'll nerf it.
So,
Dennis, I couldn't agree with you more. He said he leans heavily on solo rules.
Yeah.
And it's fun, and it is interesting because I have found I have started looking at things through that lens more often, even with some of the goofy little board game things that I do. It's like it is immediately more interesting to me if I know I have that option, because I know I will be able to use it more often. Because I have a handful of games that are like my favorites, that are go-tos, that a lot of them can't even play with 2 players, so like just Bill and I can't even play it by ourselves. You have to wait until you have 3 or more people to be able to play. So it makes a big difference what you can spend your time on.
Yeah, it's true. Dean, good point about, because I don't know if people know, but GW is owned by a, what do you call those companies? The,
Evil?
No, they're just a financial company. They're
a venture capitalist or something.
Venture capitalist group. And so that's where the model comes from, is venture capital, because the founders of GW sold out years ago. And then in the mid 90s, 40K, kind of fell out of favor for a while. So
apparently they still are.
Yeah. To tough years. But you know what, who was that? Dennis, I would love to do a show about solo games. We should do that, because we have what?
Battle Space.
Thank you.
Yes.
Battle Space. And can't you do in-country solo as well?
Yes.
My Walking Dead All Out War, you can play solo.
There you go. So we should do a show about
solo. It's just there are some games that are specifically designed for it.
Yeah, we should. You know what? There's our theme for next show.
There you go.
So we'll talk about solo wargaming. For those who, we have a lot of people that live where they don't have access to gaming clubs or game stores, or gaming partners, so they do solo. We should talk about that.
Yeah, like Vince Venturella and Adam Loper, Uncle Adam, have their own little game company, Snarling Badger Games, and I think they've got 3 games out. It might be 4. I might have, but all of their game systems have a solo option.
Yep.
That is something they specifically built into after they released their first game. They saw that there was a demand for solo options, so they wrote a supplement for their first game for solo, and all the other games basically have solo options in them already built into the rules. So you can play them solo. Like Battle Space, you can play co-op.
Nailed it, Tuffy. Yes.
We're gonna have to watch the video for that. I mean,
can we get a rated R?
Yeah.
We may not get
community strike waiting to happen.
That won't be monetized.
I should say we may not be monetized on that one.
Yep. And then
yeah, no, I think
Battle Space has a physical version. Modifius picked them up, and that's good. We
need to get Robert on and talk about, because it's releasing soon, the physical. I bought the pre-order, so I have the PDFs, but the physical set I'm waiting on. But it doesn't come with minis. I thought we were going to get a whole starter set with minis, but oh well. So, but we should get him on the show.
Yeah, 100%.
One last point when it comes to whether I'm going to play a game or not, to keep it from getting too much and be able to find players. Is there a way to virtualize it?
Yeah.
Because I got players all over the globe, and sometimes you have to reach that far. How many people want to sit down and play a 6-hour game of Panzer Leader? Sometimes I got to go to the UK. I got to go to Australia. Canada, God knows where else, and sometimes it's tough.
Yeah, I mean, if
you can make the world your gaming club, you improve your odds.
Most definitely. True. Yeah, and if you have an easy, accessible digital version, I mean, you've done it with Hex Encounter games, you've done it with miniature-based games. Just having that makes it work so much better.
like D20 and some of that stuff too.
Yeah. So
Yep.
Yeah. Although to Fabian's point, yeah, I thought it'd be a box set, but turns out we all have minis.
true.
You're not
Not
wrong. At
wrong,
least
yeah.
that's my experience. Yeah.
It's one of the great things about historical wargaming in general.
Yeah,
If you have a 50mm miniature, you've got 50mm Sherman, you've got a 50mm Sherman.
that's right.
It's not like, an Ultramarine. You can't play that in BattleTech.
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, it depends on your crew. I mean, if you could proxy in a Sherman for something, it's
Or
like
not.
that, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in a friendly game, you can say,
I
"Hey,
want to take that to a tournament. You're not gonna.
Oh no, we're not talking tournaments.
yeah,
Yeah.
all
But
right."
Marty, one of the things about you is you just like painting the mini. So even
Yeah,
if you're not
true.
playing
I
games,
lean much more into the hobby side of things than the actual gaming side. Although,
Yeah.
that's part of the reason why I like solo games is that I don't have to rely on being able to have somebody else that's available when I'm available.
Mhm.
So I can run my own games. That's how I got into Battle Space. And Robert, I'm telling you, that guy
you
totally.
think he invented COVID is what you do.
Yeah, he totally nailed the timing, unintentionally, because he released his game in March of 2020 when
Yeah.
everybody was
Yeah.
getting locked down.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, and it was, I don't know, it was like $12 for the PDF rules on Gamers Vault. I'm like,
I smell a
man.
conspiracy.
Turns out he's actually a bioweapons expert.
All right. Well,
Hey.
keep those thoughts. We'll pick up on the
Yeah.
next show about solo wargaming. So, if everybody can come back with one game that they really enjoy, or is good for solo war gaming, obviously Marty has Battle Space. So,
Mhm.
but there are others. I actually have one in mind, and it involves Rorke's Drift.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Turns out he's going to play all 4,000
Yeah.
Zulu
You're gonna have him by name too.
individually by himself.
Would it shock anybody that I just watched Zulu again the other night?
We did.
We just passed the anniversary.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
When are you gonna do it on set? On location.
yeah, that would be awesome. I'm still trying to convince Don to spend a week in South Africa, at this really nice little resort that overlooks the battlefield.
Islam Wanda.
Yes.
Or we could just go stay at like Kidani Village in Orlando and
Whatever.
set your game up.
Okay. Well, all right, kids. We're going to go ahead and close out the show. To everybody that's been with us, thank you so much. The comments have been exploding. You guys are awesome. We appreciate it. Please spread the word, spread the love.
Tell your
We
nerd
are
friends
growing.
about us.
We thank you all. Zulu Dawn. You didn't like Zulu Dawn? I like Zulu Dawn. I thought it was a good movie. It's a Hollywood movie, but so is Zulu. But good movies all around. But thank you very much. Make sure you watch Jim's next video on Anzio. Okay. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And then next week, I'll be taking the reins for a video as Jim works on other projects. And we'll go from there. And if you guys are in the States, or even if you're not, and you're coming to Adepticon this year, we would love to meet you.
Yes.
Yes.
We will have some giveaways, and we're probably going to have a little meetup at we're going to have a table, a booth, if you will, at Adepticon in the historical gaming hall. So after, after we close down the production for the night, we'll probably have a get together where there'll be some
Good luck, Tuffy.
adult beverages and maybe some good old Chicago pizza and whatnots. And we'd love to see you. We'll be hanging out, having a good time. So if you guys are coming to Adepticon, please let us know, and we will plan on that. And if you don't, we'll still drink and eat anyways. So, right?
Mhm.
All right. Kids, thank you very much. Have a happy week. We'll see you in 2 weeks. And make sure you check out the videos.
Good luck,
Until the
Tuffy
next
years.
time, We
Good luck.
appreciate you. And thanks very much. Take care.
You have been listening to the SITREP podcast. We hope you have enjoyed the show. Make sure you like and subscribe to all of our channels on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. Remember to join us every other weekend for a new episode of the podcast, and don't forget our other programming on Wednesdays and Sundays.